Welcome to the Gambler's Ruin Project. This is our Premier League episode for May 18th, 2025, powered by SmartBet AI.
Welcome back to the show. Quick reminder, AI insights do not equal betting advice. Always bet responsibly. Today's featured matches: Leicester City versus Ipswich Town and West Ham United versus Nottingham Forest.
This episode is AI generated and meant for informational purposes only. Gambling can be addictive. Please bet responsibly. This video is not intended as financial or legal advice, and AI is just one tool of several you should use when evaluating soccer matches. Always consider multiple factors before placing bets.
Before we dive into this week's predictions, let's talk about the brains behind the numbers. SmartBet AI, the predictive engine that powers this podcast.
SmartBet AI isn't just a hobby project. It's built on techniques drawn from graduate-level research in machine learning, statistics, and sports analytics from universities around the world.
Exactly. Think neural networks trained on match history like they did at Universidad de los Andes, or ensemble models combining decision trees and support vector machines, like in studies from IP University and Keene University.
It then applies models like random forests, XGBoost, multi-layer perceptrons, and runs 10,000 match Monte Carlo simulations to get stable predictions. It's built to predict football outcomes using a layered approach: historical match data, expected goals, injury reports, team ELO ratings, and more.
It's kind of like taking the best ideas from 5 academic papers, locking them in a room, and asking them to settle on a result by committee.
And no bias, no gut feelings. SmartBet AI doesn't know what a favorite is. It only knows the numbers.
So when you hear us say 38.5% chance of an away win or under 2.5 goals favored, that's not a vibe check. That's thousands of simulations and statistical rigor talking.
Bottom line, it's not perfect, but it's one of the most objective, research-backed systems for understanding match dynamics before kickoff.
All right, with that foundation in place, let's head to the East Midlands for our first matchup: Leicester City versus Ipswich Town. All right, first up, Leicester City hosting Ipswich Town at the King Power, a Premier League matchup with some sneaky implications, and on paper this might look like a routine home game. But the data says otherwise.
Yeah, don't let that venue fool you. This isn't your typical home side has the edge situation. Let's set the scene.
Kickoff is set for 3 p.m. BST. That's 10 a.m. for our stateside listeners. We're looking at mostly cloudy skies, 69 degrees Fahrenheit, real feel of 67, with a breeze from the northeast around 10 mph. Almost no chance of rain.
So basically perfect English football weather. Cloudy enough to ruin photos, calm enough to let the ball do the talking.
Exactly! A solid day for possession-heavy play. If either side can actually hold on to the ball for more than 4 passes, that is.
Let's talk absentees, because both teams are coming into this one a little beat up. Leicester's missing a decent chunk of their squad.
Yeah, Hermanson's still out in goal, Mavididi's sidelined, Ricardo Pereira isn't back yet, and Sutar and Fatawu are long-term issues. And Harry Winks, banned by the club. Not ideal.
That midfield ban hurts. Winks is their control guy. Without him, Leicester's engine room might stall.
Meanwhile, Ipswich has their own problems. Leif Davis is suspended, Smodics and Broadhead are both nursing injuries, and Murick is still out in goal. Ogbene's sidelined too, so it's patchwork defences on both ends.
It's like a who's more depleted contest. Neither team's flying at full strength here.
If you're into tactical chess matches where both players are missing a few pieces, this game's for you.
Tactically, this could get scrappy. Ipswich actually has the higher ELO rating, 1,422 compared to Leicester's 1,398. That might surprise people considering Leicester are at home.
Not if you've been tracking form. Ipswich has quietly put together some decent performances. Leicester, on the other hand, has lacked attacking cohesion. Without Winks and Mavididi, they're short on creativity and drive.
And Ipswich? No Davis on the left, no Ogbene out wide, so their flanks are exposed too.
Exactly. That's why this shapes up as a narrow midfield-heavy battle. Think limited width, lots of sideways passing, and a big emphasis on turnovers and transition.
Could be cagey. One mistake or set piece might decide it.
Let's talk data. Here's what SmartBet AI gives us on expected goals. Leicester at 0.87, Ipswich at 1.07. Marginal advantage to the visitors.
And when we ran the Monte Carlo simulations, 10,000 trials, the results are pretty consistent. Home win, 30.05%, draw, 31.45%, away win, 38.5%.
So yeah, Ipswich edges it, but not by much. The most likely scorelines.
0-1, 14.3%, 0-0, 13.83%, 1-1, 13.78%.
Translation goals will be rare, and boredom may not be.
Or we get a chaos 3-3 out of nowhere because football is chaos. But if we're following the numbers, don't expect fireworks.
Here's the big takeaway. All four of our core models, Random Forest, XG Boost, MLP, and the Stacked Ensemble, say the same thing, Ipswich to win. But just barely.
When all models align, we take notice. That said, this match lives in the grey zone. The draw at 31% is nearly as likely as an Ipswich win.
And Leicester at 30% isn't completely out of it either. The variance here is tight.
Okay, so what's the smart bet? If you're playing the discipline game, this is a classic under 2.5 goals fixture. All indicators point to a low-scoring grind.
And if you're value hunting, the draw at 3.2 odds or higher might be the only angle that offers decent expected return. Kelly Criterion says it's borderline, but viable if you want some skin in the game.
So either skip it or go small on a draw or Ipswich. Nothing here screams bankroll builder.
Exactly. This is not your double down and pray kind of match.
Unless you're praying for 90 minutes of sideways passing and a 0-0 thriller, in which case, go nuts.
Alright, that wraps Leicester versus Ipswich. Cautious tactics, injured squads, AI leans Ipswich. But the safest play? Probably your remote's mute button. Before we jump into our second match, let's take a quick detour down memory lane and talk about one of the greatest underdog stories in sports history.
Oh, we're doing it? We're bringing out the fairy tale.
You mean the fairy tale? Leicester City, 2015-2016 Premier League champions. 5,000 to 1 odds before the season. Let that sink in.
It's honestly hard to explain to newer fans just how absurd that was. The season before, Leicester barely escaped relegation, and then they went toe-to-toe with the Big Six and won.
Powered by Jamie Vardy's blistering counterattacks, N'Golo Kante running for 3 men, and Riyad Mahrez doing sorcery on the wing. And Claudio Ranieri, Mr. Tinkerman, he didn't tinker at all, just kept it simple and let the squad gel.
And who could forget Vardy's record, scoring in 11 consecutive Premier League games? He was unstoppable.
It was more than a title. It was a global reminder that football's not just about money and muscle. It's about belief, chemistry, and catching lightning in a bottle.
And a reminder that sometimes even the data models get humbled. No one predicted that title, except a few dreamers, and one guy who put a fiver down and walked away with a house.
Best ROI in Premier League history.
Alright, enough nostalgia. Let's bring it back to the present. Because next up, it's West Ham United hosting Nottingham Forest. And we've got another scrappy, low-scoring battle on our hands.
Okay, let's shift across to London, where West Ham take on Nottingham Forest at the London Stadium. Another Premier League clash, and spoiler alert, it might be even tighter than the last one.
Tight like Moyes' tactical substitutions. You know the guy keeps 3 centre-backs in his coat pocket just in case.
He probably dreams in defensive formations.
Kickoff is 14:15 BST. Early risers in the States, that's 9:15 AM EST.
Mostly sunny skies, 71 degrees Fahrenheit, light breeze from the northeast, and just a 1% chance of rain, which means open conditions, nothing too slick or windy. Ideal for a clean passing game.
Assuming, of course, either team wants to pass. I wouldn't bet the mortgage on a midfield masterclass here.
Injuries are going to play a big role here. West Ham are missing Michael Antonio, who's still out with a calf issue, along with Maxwell Cornet and Crescencio Somerville.
No Antonio means no battering ram up front. That's a big miss. His hold-up play is crucial for their counter game.
Yep, and without him, West Ham will likely rely more on Jared Bowen and Kudus to create chances. Which, don't get me wrong, isn't a bad plan B, but it's a lot less physical.
And Forest? They're not in great shape either.
Far from it. Callum Hudson-Odoi is out with a thigh injury. That's a creative blow. David Carmo is suspended after a straight red. Omar Bamidele is sidelined with card accumulation. And Ida Silva's still out with a foot issue.
That's 3 defenders and their most dangerous winger either banned or in the physio's office. Forest's backline is basically a jigsaw puzzle with missing pieces.
All right, Dom, put the chalkboard hat on. What's this game actually going to look like?
It's going to be messy. Forest's backline is disrupted, new pairings, unfamiliar roles, and they don't have Hudson-Odoi to stretch the pitch or take on fullbacks one-on-one. That limits their transition game.
Which is what they rely on. Forest aren't built to control possession for 90 minutes. They hit fast and wide.
And West Ham's got a different issue. No Antonio means they lack that central focal point. Bowen will likely play as a false 9 or wide striker drifting in, with Kudus trying to link things up.
So this one's all about the midfield?
Bingo! Whoever wins that battle, not with flair but with sheer attrition, will control the tempo.
Expect mild sparklers at best.
Let's bring in the data. According to SmartBet AI, the expected goals are West Ham 0.78, Forest 0.95.
Not even cracking 1.0 for either side. That tells you all you need to know. These are blunt knives right now.
And the Monte Carlo simulation, 10,000 match trials, spits out the following probabilities. Home win 27.17%, draw 34.19%, away win 38.64%.
Forest slightly favoured, but the draw is actually the most stable result. More than a third of outcomes in the sim.
And look at the most probable scorelines. 0-0 18.43%, 0-1 17.14%, 1-0 13.88%, 1-1 13.27%.
It's basically a spreadsheet's way of saying, don't expect goals, just grit.
If this match had a soundtrack, it'd be elevator music with the occasional VR siren. Every model we ran, Random Forest, XG Boost, MLP Neural Network, and our stacked ensemble, predicts a Forest win. But the numbers also scream variance. A Forest win is slightly more likely, but the draw is well within reach, and honestly might be the safest prediction here.
And West Ham, not hopeless, but just 27% to take it.
And that's with home field baked in.
Okay, Kat, talk to the disciplined bettors out there. What's the smart play?
This is a textbook low-total match. Under 2.5 goals is the primary lean, based on XG, injuries, and the tactical setup.
And in terms of result, the draw probably holds the most value, especially if you're getting 3.0 odds or better.
Exactly. Forest may be slightly favoured by the models, but unless you're getting over 3.5 on the away win, there's no clear edge. If odds shorten on West Ham due to home bias, you might even get sneaky good odds on the draw or Forest.
So the verdict, draw or Forest, lean under 2.5, and don't bet big unless the market misprices it.
Which it often does. Remember, the smartest bets are often the most boring ones.
Like this match.
Hey now, there's beauty in the grind, just maybe not on the scoreboard.
Exactly. So pour a coffee, lower your expectations, and let's see which midfield gets exhausted first.
All right, folks, time to bring it all together. 2 Premier League matches, a whole lot of injury chaos, and AI models doing their statistical tap dance.
And what have we learned? Well, Mostly that neither of these matches is likely to blow your socks off, unless you're really into 1-0s, 0-0s, or watching defenders argue about who was supposed to mark the back post.
Exactly. Let's be clear. Both of these fixtures trend toward low-scoring, low-variance outcomes. The numbers aren't pointing to value fireworks. They're whispering, be patient, be selective.
Let's go one at a time. First up, Leicester versus Ipswich. What does SmartBet AI recommend?
Every model leans toward an Ipswich win, but the draw is almost equally likely. That's your sweet spot. If you're getting 3.3 or higher on the draw, or Ipswich at anything above 2.8, that's where your value starts to appear.
Just don't go chasing Leicester here. They're at home, sure, but with all those injuries and suspensions, this isn't the same squad that had Premier League grit a few seasons ago. This is more of a grit your teeth and hang on version.
Translation: Ipswich or draw only, and preferably only if the odds justify it. Okay, match 2, West Ham versus Nottingham Forest. Kat?
Same story, different jerseys. All 4 models favour Forest, but the Monte Carlo simulation makes one thing clear: the draw is the most stable outcome.
Low XG, patched up lineups, and creative engines missing on both sides. Honestly, if I had to personify this match, I'd call it 0-0 in a trench coat.
Could also be VR check waiting room. The kind of match where one weird bounce changes everything.
So, betting-wise, we're sticking with what works. Draw or Forest win, with a firm lean to under 2.5 goals.
And if your sportsbook has priced West Ham too generously because of the home factor, that's your window to sneak in some value on Forest or the draw.
Let's land the plane. The real lesson this week: don't bet for the sake of betting. If the numbers and the odds don't align, the smartest play is to step back.
Exactly. This is where discipline separates data-driven bettors from weekend warriors. No edge, no bet. It's that simple.
It's like poker, you fold more hands than you play. And this weekend might be a fold unless odds drift your way.
Smart betting isn't about picking winners, it's about spotting value and managing risk.
And knowing when to watch a 0-0 draw without financial stress. Sometimes the real win is walking away unscathed.
Especially if you're watching West Ham try to score without Antonio. That's true discipline.
All right, that's your AI-powered betting strategy recap. One more segment to go. Let's wrap up with some final thoughts and a preview of what's coming next week. And hey, don't forget, check those late injury updates. We've seen whole predictions flip because someone tweaks a hamstring in the Friday training session.
Especially this time of year. Fatigue, suspensions, surprise illnesses. Always give yourself the full data set before pulling the trigger.
Best way to lose an edge? Ignoring news that breaks 5 hours before kickoff. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to subscribe, follow, and share. We've got one more big episode coming up. Our season finale analysis next week, and trust us, you don't want to miss it.
We'll break down the final fixtures, playoff implications, relegation scraps, you name it.
And maybe, just maybe, a goal prediction that doesn't involve a 0-0 draw.
Thanks again for tuning in, and as always,
Bet smart, bet small, and trust the process.
And if in doubt, bet nothing at all.
And ever growing. See you next week, and may your bankrolls be ever boring.
take care, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Gambler's Ruin Project. Remember, our content is for informational purposes only, and all predictions are AI generated. Gambling can be addictive, so please bet responsibly. If you or someone you know needs help with gambling addiction, here are resources that can provide support. North America, contact the National Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-5224-700, available 24/7 for confidential help. UK, reach out to BeGambleAware at 080880200133 or visit begambleaware.org for information and support. Bet smart, bet safe, and as always, remember to keep things fun and balanced. We'll see you next week for more insights. Thanks for joining us. And don't forget to hit subscribe for more AI-driven insights and pro betting tips each week. See you next time. This content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The predictions and insights provided by the Gambler's Ruin Project, powered by SmartBet AI technology, are generated using statistical models and historical data. These predictions do not guarantee outcomes and should not be considered financial or betting advice. Gambling can be addictive. Please bet responsibly and only wager what you can afford to lose. If you or someone you know is struggling with gambling addiction, seek help from professional support services. This content does not constitute an offer to participate in gambling. The Gambler's Ruin Project does not operate as a bookmaker or betting service and does not encourage gambling. All users are responsible for complying with local laws and regulations regarding sports betting and gambling-related content in their respective jurisdictions. The Gambler's Ruin Project, where the odds get cracked.